Welcome back to Sports Cards and a Cup of Joe. This is your host, Joe Davis, and I am so excited to be back with you today because today I am talking about a topic that I am incredibly familiar with. You know, there's some episodes where it's a stretch from like, hey, I want to do an episode on this topic, but I've really got to do my research. I really want to know this well, and I've got to educate myself on it. But I'm telling you, this topic today is like the back of my hand. I know it so well. So today we're talking 1980s baseball rookies and the top 10 list. But first of all, this episode is sponsored by none other than your friends at GotBaseballCards.com and our consignment team, as we're still prepping for the National Sports Collectors Convention. And if you have cards that you would like to consign to us for the show, please shoot us an email to gotbaseballcards@gmail.com, and we will be happy to assist you. So I was a child born in 1968, so I was technically a young child in the 70s, and turned 12 years old in 1980, but most of my most furious days of collecting were the late 70s and early 80s. And so I took a break in the mid-'80s, and I was back by 1987, and then I was chasing all those rookies I had missed in the mid-'80s. So I have owned every one of these. I have owned every one of these in abundance over the years. So if you have heard my other episodes on top 10 lists, you know the way I normally roll, where I will count down the top 10, and then I'll tell you those who didn't quite make the list. Today I'm going to do it a little bit differently because I do know these pretty well, and most of this I created off the top of my head, so I'm sure I will probably get me in trouble because I will probably miss someone by doing that. But we're going to focus, first of all, just going year by year on the key card or cards of rookies from a particular year. And then after that, we will backtrack and then look at the top 10. So we're going to go 1 year at a time, starting with 1980 up through 1989, pointing out the key rookies, and then we will give you the top 10. So what's also going to be interesting is, unlike all the other decades we've covered, is that in the 1980s, we had a proliferation of other manufacturers. So I'll try to share with you which rookies appeared in which products best that I can recall. And then when we get to the top 10 list, I'm only going to give you, in most cases, one card of each rookie. Like a particular rookie can't take 4 spots on the list just because he was in 4 products. So here we go. Starting off with 1980, we have Topps Rickey Henderson rookie. One of the most gifted athletes in the history of the game. All he did was win. All he did was steal bases, lead off home runs. Probably considered by many, if not most, to be the greatest leadoff history in the history of the game. 1980 Topps Rickey Henderson. Moving on to 1981, I've got 4 names for you. Tim Raines, Kirk Gibson, Fernando Valenzuela, and Harold Baines. One thing to keep in mind on Raines and Valenzuela is that they also had cards in the traded set for Topps that year. 1982, only one name really stands out, none other than Mr. Cal Ripken Jr. Topps put Cal on a triple rookie card in the regular series, and then he got his own standalone card in the traded series, which is a very important card. He also appeared in the Fleer and Donruss sets with rookie cards there. 1983, there was the big 3. At least I was a Topps guy, and of course the biggest 3 rookies in regular issue Topps were Wade Boggs, Ryan Sandberg, and Tony Gwynn. I remember learning many valuable lessons on Tony Gwynn. When I was really getting heavy into the hobby as far as grading, this was in the late 90s, I just thought Tony Gwynn was a great buy, and I was buying up quantities of Tony Gwynn, but I had not learned yet how to gauge centering. And I remember getting back a lot of really high grades that were off center, and I was like, what is that? And then I was like, the corners look beautiful. What's the deal? And so I learned very quickly how to focus in on centering on cards, because if the cards are not centered, it doesn't matter how the corners look, you're still not going to get, a gem at 10. So other interesting card that year came in the Topps Traded Series, which Fleer nor Donruss did a traded series that year, and that is the Darryl Strawberry Topps Traded rookie card, also a very important rookie that year. 1984, one name stands out. And if you're a baseball card historian, you'll know where I'm going with this. Don Mattingly, Donnie Baseball, Yankees star. He changed the face of the baseball card hobby in the mid-'80s because he was so hot. His cards were so in demand. He made every product sell well because everyone was chasing his rookie cards. I still remember how disappointed I was. One day I sat in my basement. I had it was Joe's card room, and it was like my little extra room at my house. It had been one of my brother's bedrooms, and then when he moved out, it became my hobby room, which was one great benefit of being the youngest in the family, that after both of my brothers came out, I actually had two rooms. I had my bedroom and I had my hobby room where I would put all my baseball cards. But I remember being so disappointed one day as I opened 3 boxes of 1984 Topps, and I did not pull a single Don Mattingly rookie. I was like, what is going on? I was so frustrated. I did get several Darryl Strawberries, who was the other good rookie card in that crop. As I said, he had a traded rookie, but his regular issue 84 Topps is considered his standard rookie card that came in packs. Strawberry also, like Mattingly, also appeared in the Fleer and Donruss sets. But you know who only had cards in Fleer that year? And that was in the Fleer update set. That was Kirby Puckett and Roger Clemens, by far the two biggest standout rookies in the 84 Fleer update set. Moving on to 1985, you had Mark McGwire, who, of course, changed the face of baseball in 1998 with a great home run chase, he along with Sammy Sosa. There's a great documentary about that on ESPN. I think it's called Long Gone Summer. And the other key rookies that year were the regular issue rookie cards of Puckett and Clemens, as well as Dwight Gooden. And I did fail to mention that Gooden also had a traded card in the 84 Fleer update set. So all 3 of those players appeared in the 84 Fleer update, and then they all had regular issue rookie cards in multiple sets in 85. However, McGwire only appeared in the 85 Topps because he was a part of the USA team cards. So McGwire did not appear in any other sets for 2 more years. So making that a very interesting story for his rookie cards. Moving on to 1986, I remember back in the day, 86 baseball was not a very popular design, 86 Topps. I still don't like the design to this day. Sorry, guys, I don't. But Donruss was very popular, and Donruss had a way better rookie card selection. Donruss had Fred McGriff, or has Fred McGriff, as well as Jose Canseco, and there was a time where Jose ruled the baseball card kingdom, where we were all ripping packs of 86 Donruss and Fleer, chasing Jose rookies the season he went 40-40, and he was the hottest thing on the planet for a red-hot minute there. Also, 86 in the Topps traded, you had Barry Bonds. In the Fleer traded, you had Barry Bonds. And in the Donruss rookie set, you had Barry Bonds. You also had Bo Jackson rookies in the 1986 Donruss rookies set as well as the 1986 Topps Traded, though Bo did not have a card in the Fleer update. Moving on to 1987, biggest standout name by far is Barry Bonds. Even though he had had some traded rookies, his cards are very sought after in the 1987 sets, both Topps, Fleer, and Donruss. Another Hall of Famer that's often overlooked who was in each of those sets is Barry Larkin. And don't forget Braves dominant superstar, 4-time Cy Young winner, Greg Maddux, who did not appear in any regular issue sets other than Donruss, but he was not in Fleer or Topps, but he was only in the traded series there. So Maddux, of course, one of the greatest pitchers in the history of the game. 1988, in regular issue products, you really only have one name that stands out, and that's Tom Glavine, another Braves ace, Braves Hall of Famer. He had regular issue cards in Topps, Score, who was new to the game that year, Donruss, and Fleer. But then in the traded series that year, you had rookie cards of Biggio, Craig Biggio, Roberto Alomar, John Smoltz as well. Depending on which set you're talking about, Smoltz only appeared in the Fleer, while Biggio and Alomar were also in the Score traded as well. So moving on to the final year, 1989, Upper Deck, one name rises above all the rest, Mr. Ken Griffey Jr., one of the most important cards in the history of the game. The 89 Upper Deck set transformed the baseball card industry. It was new, it was different, it was expensive. I still remember a store owner, I was in college at the time, and a store owner that I did a lot of business with told me he had gotten an order form for 89 Upper Deck, and I think it was going to be like $18 a box cost, which was insane back then because, we were buying Topps at wholesale clubs for like $9 a box then. And they were going to charge twice that for the same number of packs, same number of cards. So that was, and I remember him telling me he decided not to order it because he just thought it was going to be too expensive. So had he ordered it, he would have done very well because by the time the product came out, I remember selling a lot of boxes that year for $35, $36 a box. And now they're quite a bit more, of course, and Griffey Jr. is the ringleader by far in the 89 Upper Deck. But if I could go back in time, I would say Topps. What were you thinking? You see, Griffey Jr. had rookie cards in Upper Deck. That was by far and is by far his best one in a regular issue product. He was also in Fleer. He was also in also in Donruss, but did not have a card in Topps until the traded series. Like Topps, he was the most important rookie coming out. There was plenty of hype around him. How did you drop the ball and not include Ken Griffey Jr. in your regular 1989 Topps baseball product? To this day, it hurt the sale of those boxes because Griffey is not in there. They had to wait and stick him in the 89 Topps traded set. Topps remembered to put the other best rookie in the set. Randy Johnson has a card in regular Topps as well as one in the traded set. And he's in Upper Deck. And he's in Fleer where there is that iconic error card. You can look that up where there's Marlboro in the background on some versions of the card, and it's blackened out on other versions of the card. But Randy Johnson also had cards in Donruss that year. So far and away, your biggest that year, of course, is the Griffey Jr. Upper Deck, followed by Johnson. So I've given you a breakdown of which players had rookies, which key players were in each set. But now comes the top 10 list. And again, I'm only going to focus on one card per player. Otherwise, we would have 4 different Griffey Juniors on the list. And I'm also not including any Tiffany set cards. If you're not familiar with the Tiffany set cards, they were released by Topps starting in 1984, where there was rare glossy versions released only in factory set form, and they produced those up through 1991. And they're very tough. They were very limited, and most of you don't have them. And so I want to focus on cards that were much more widely traded back in the day and are still more readily available, because you might have some of them stuck in a closet. And the Tiffany ones, you would probably know it. They have a high gloss finish. Most of them were limited to about 5,000 produced, and they bring extraordinary returns if they grade well. But again, my list is focused on top 10 issued in packs or issued in a traded set. So here we go. Number 10, 1983 Topps, Ryne Sandberg. Topps is the most popular of his rookie cards. Sandberg, beloved Hall of Famer, known mainly for his career with the Cubs, and very, very popular ball player. 1985 Topps, Mark McGwire. Again, this card is a standout. It was all over national news in 1998. I was interviewed on my 30th birthday to talk about this very card because McGwire was so in demand. He was the hottest player in the game at the time. Number 8, 1987 Fleer Barry Bonds. I focused on this one more just because it's more readily available. He was in the traded series, both from Topps, Fleer, and Donruss the year before, but the 87 Fleer and the glossy version of that, kind of like the Tiffany, but the Fleer glossy was much more heavily printed than the Tiffany versions. So 87 Fleer Barry Bonds, number 8 on the list. Moving up to number 7, the elusive 1983 Topps Tony Gwynn, and I say that because it was elusive for me to ever get a 10 on that card, because I submitted a lot of them and I never got a PSA 10. To this day, I've never gotten a PSA 10 on that card. Number 6, 1984 Fleer Update, Roger Clemens. Very tough card. The Fleer Update sets were not mass-produced, and that, of course, Clemens, one of the most dominant pitchers of all time, has not gotten into the Hall because of the steroid allegations, but you cannot argue with how he helped many teams on the field. 1984 Fleer Update, Kirby Puckett. Puckett is in the Hall of Fame. Sadly, helped defeat our Braves in 1991, but it's a very, very good card, very sought-after card. 1984 Donruss, Don Mattingly. This one in high grade. I sold, if I recall, 2 of these last year in PSA 10. I believe we sold one for $4,000 and one for $4,200. It's a very, very tough card in high grade. You'll see plenty of 8s. If you want to own just an iconic baseball card that has so many stories around it, buy you an 84 Donruss Don Mattingly in like a 7 or 8 grade. They're very affordable, but it's a truly very, very important card to the history of the baseball card hobby, because 84 was a big year for baseball cards, and Don Mattingly was the reason. Number 3, 1982 Topps traded Cal Ripken Jr. Ripken, of course, one of the most beloved players in the history of the game. Former MVP, led the Orioles to a World Series title along with Eddie Murray back in 1983, and was just, all-star every year. Of course, the all-time leader for consecutive games played as he broke Lou Gehrig's record, and just super popular, very beloved player. Number 2, and this was tough. Number 2 and number 1, it was very tough to pick between them, but I am going to give you my rationale. Number 2 is 1989 Upper Deck Griffey Jr. 1989 Upper Deck Ken Griffey Jr. Again, one of the most important cards in the history of the hobby. and one of the most important players and one of the greatest performers in the history of the hobby. As I've told you on past shows, I look at a lot of different factors. I could have easily put that as number one, even though it's from the very last year of the decade. But Upper Deck Griffey Jr. comes in at number two, card number one in the very first Upper Deck baseball set. Very cool card, very collected card in any grade. There are actually collectors out there buying that card in every single grade. So you will be amazed. Look up and see what a PSA 1 brings, what a PSA 2 brings, etc. They bring big money because there are collectors out there trying to collect that card in every single grade. Topping off the list, 1980 Topps, Rickey Henderson. As I said earlier, Henderson was one of the most dominant players of his generation, as was Griffey. But Henderson changed the game of baseball, the way he led off games, the way he got on base, the way he scored runs, the way he stole bases. He was such a great player, and that card is very, very tough to get in high grade. At one time, back in the year 2000, I owned one of two PSA 10 Rickey Henderson rookies. And I sold it at the National out in Anaheim for $8,500. At the time, it was the biggest sale I'd ever made on a baseball card. I remember I was so excited to make the sale. I told my team, we're going to Disney. And we all went to Disney that night, and I treated them. And kind of like, winning the World Series. And, hey, we're going to go to Disney. Well, I sold a big card, so I said, hey, we're going to go to Disney. So, very, very important card. Now, do I wish I'd held on to it? $8,500 is a lot of money. It was really a lot of money to me 25 years ago. And the buyer was very happy with the card. I was very happy with the sale. Nowadays, that card is worth exponentially more. Someone shared with me that one sold for around $140,000 recently. I haven't looked up that sale. I was told that. I would believe it because I know just how hard that card is to get in high grade. So if you're the gentleman who, I remember he was a stockbroker, and so if you're the gentleman who purchased that PSA 10 from me for $8,500, I hope you've still got it. Good for you. Very wise purchase. You can leave me a Google review 25 years later. Thank you to Joe Davis for the great deal on the Rickey Henderson rookie, which he sold me at 5% of current market. I would appreciate that, and I would get a laugh out of it. So if you hear this episode and you're still out there and you own it, hey, post away. And any of you, for that matter, any of you who would like to leave us a nice Google review, we won't turn them down because that really helps our business. So you can even say, I get some laughs out of Joe's podcast when he gets things wrong. That's okay too. But there you go. There's a breakdown of 1980s Topps baseball rookies, Topps Fleer, Donruss, Score, you name it, and my top 10 list. So I hope this has been educational. I know I am blessed to get to do this. It is such an honor every time I sit behind the computer, but when I grab my laptop, put the mic in hand, it's an honor to get to share with each of you, and I thank God for the opportunity, and I hope it's a blessing and an encouragement to you in some way. So thank you for listening. I hope you'll check out my other show, simply titled The Joe Davis Show as well, where I take a deeper dive into my faith and life lessons. So thanks for listening, everyone. We will be back with more soon. Remember today that Jesus loves you, and I think you are awesome too. Thanks so much.